Excellent.
Hey, so
Man,
this is, oh, you got the book. All right.
yeah, man. I have to tell you, I read a lot of personal development stuff. I'm really into reading everything. This book's incredible. It really, really is. I, man, what a story. What a story you have.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
It's been cool.
yeah. Um, but tell me about kind of for some of our listeners and viewers that we're going to have. Tell me about David Essel. Tell me how you kind of how you got started and kind of your path to where you are now, and I guess what makes you you. You know.
Yeah. Daniel, here's the funniest thing in the world. Almost everything that I've gotten involved with was never planned, never, ever planned. I started out in 1980 in the world of fitness and, was one of the top exercise video dudes in the 80s. I was in Shape magazine with Jane Fonda and Kathy Smith and Denise Austin and all these people back then that were very famous in the world of fitness. And I got involved with doing exercise videos, and then I started traveling the world 40 weeks a year as a speaker. In the
Wow.
beginning, it was, to fitness conferences all over the world. And,
Okay.
and then, and I got a master's degree in sports psychology. So I would do counseling with athletes. I played basketball at Syracuse. So basketball and tennis were my two big loves. And I pretty much limited myself to working with athletes. And then after that, it was just, like the rest of my life has not been anything I have any schooling for, any education for.
Right.
I burned out in 1989 in the world of fitness. And at the time I was burning out, I got this gig on Lifetime television. You're familiar with Lifetime?
Yep.
Yeah, Lifetime. It's for women, So I was called Mr. Motivation, and then I got Fox TV in New York, got me on as a segment reporter. I started writing books by accident. I started, counseling people outside of sports psychology totally by accident.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
tripped into the world of radio, and I hosted a show for 28 years. I mean, it's just wild but there's a constant, I mean, even though it seems sporadic and kind of insane and crazy, how I jumped from one career to another, the whole constant was always helping people to maximize their potential.
Right.
That was it,
Right.
and, as you read in the book from 1980 to 1996, I was a huge fan of positive thinking, man,
One of the I've written about that, and it even says even on the title here for people that are going to be purchasing this book, which I mean, beyond strongly recommend. Already recommended it to about 20 people. It literally crosses out law of attraction.
Yeah.
And, from reading Think and Grow Rich and auto-suggestion and all these things that are discussed in this kind of the life coaching you say personal development world, what made you come to that conclusion?
Yeah. I mean, in the book, we tell the story of Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, who's, the founder of Transcendental Meditation. And in 1996, he selected my radio show as the only media outlet to celebrate 40 years of Transcendental Meditation, which blew our mind. I mean, I have been a practitioner of TM since 1988. And in 1996, we get this call saying that you are the only media outlet for his 40th anniversary. But Daniel, here's the thing. And of course, I was really super excited. I was jacked, of all the Wayne Dyers and the Deepak Chopras and the Mark Victor Hansen and Meatloaf and Kenny Loggins and all these people I'd interviewed. All of a sudden I get Maharishi, and he's the one that blew my mind. During a break in the interview, he says to me, "You've mentioned several times about the power of affirmation, and you believe whatever you believe you can achieve." And I said, "Yeah." I go, "Maharishi, this is me, And he says, "Of your most frequently affirmations that you frequently use the most, how many of them are your reality?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "How many of them have actually come true?" And Daniel, the answer was none.
Really?
Yeah. The answer was absolutely none. In 1996, I had been waking up every day saying, I am a millionaire, and I made a lot of money, never made $1 million in a year, and then I was saying, I am sober, and I was a raging alcoholic, doing the work I'm doing, loving the work I'm doing. I never drank during my work, but come 8 o'clock at night until midnight, 365 days a year, I was drinking, you know? So he shattered. And of course I didn't tell him the truth.
No.
When he asked me the question, you know, I said, everything's great. 3 weeks later, I came out of a binge and I woke up and I looked in the mirror and I said, you know what, your affirmations are bullshit. And you've got to find a new way. And I had to get really humble. That was the turning point that made me believe that those statements, whatever you believe you can achieve, are nonsense. You know, and Daniel, you read the book. I mean, I have very strong opinions about this crap, you know, and of all these mega superstars I've interviewed, Susie Orman, in my previous book, Positive Thinking Will Never Change Your Life, that was also a #1 bestseller, I tell the interview I had with Susie Orman. You know, and she had talked about how in her life she had lost every penny to her name. You know, that she had an office manager that embezzled every penny when she was on vacation. And she talked about what it took for her to come back and be successful. And it wasn't positive thinking. You know, like that was, she never even said anything about having a great attitude. She talked about having to forgive the person that embezzled her money in order for her to start to break even, and then how hard she had to work to reclaim her financial success. So, you know, as I've interviewed all these people, none of them, Daniel, regardless of the secret and the law of attraction, not one person who's super successful, Mark Victor Hansen, Chicken Soup for the Soul, oh my God, their story is unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
You know, none of them had said, well, I'll tell you what I did, David. I used an affirmation beginning with the word I am. And the next day I woke up and I was a millionaire.
Right.
You know, the next day I woke up and I lost, or you know, 3 weeks later, we had lost 300 pounds. You know, like that stuff doesn't happen. And so I started getting a little agitated, Daniel, a number of years ago that, you know, these books were coming out and people were making money off of individuals suffering.
Right.
And, you know, and one of the key phrases that, you know, all of these people in the law of attraction and all this, you know, would say in their seminars was, you know, you've got to believe and keep coming back. You've got to believe and keep coming back. And it's almost sort of like charlatan-like, you know, like, and then, you know, I won't mention names because I'm not into doing that. I'll mention names of successful people, but not people that, but, you know, there's a guy that was a big famous law of attraction teacher, still is to this day. And I think it was 2 years ago he came out, and when I was challenging the law of attraction big time, he came out with a new book that was saying, you know, we missed something in the law of attraction, and we didn't put vibration into your affirmations.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, you know who I'm talking about, right? And now all of a sudden, you know, when you use vibration and passion and energy, now the checks will come in the mail if they haven't yet, you know? Yeah. It's sad.
There's a part of your story relating when you met with Mahesh, right?
Yeah.
Where my jaw dropped when I read it, and I want you to if you could maybe if you want to elaborate that is when you were at a conference down in Florida and you have coffee with somebody. I'm telling you right now, I got chills reading that story because it just hit me hard. Can you kind of tell a little bit about? I mean, from your perspective versus kind of reading the book, I want to hear out of your mouth, you know.
Daniel, it was, I'm so glad it moved you because, I mean, it moves me right now. I'm feeling chills about ready to tell it. Right. You know, and it was, you know, the number of weeks after I had interviewed Maharishi and I was on stage at this massive conference in Orlando. I come off stage, there's a line of people asking questions, and then at the very end, there's this tiny little tot, this little girl, you know. I mean, she was probably 35, 40. No, she had to be older than that, maybe in her 50s. And she said, hey, can I steal 15, 20 minutes of your time? And I said, yeah, you know, what's going on? She said, I just flew in from Fairfield, Iowa, and Maharishi wants me to ask you a question. And I said, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi? She goes, yeah. I said, he sent you here? She said, oh, yeah, he told me to fly down, ask you one question, and fly right back.
No way.
So we sit down to talk, Daniel. And so I said, tell me about you first, because I'm not getting this connection here, you know, like why? And she said, well, yeah, I've been with Maharishi for 36 years of his 40 years. You know, I've been with him through it all. And she said, you know, what he wants to know is this. Of everything you guys talked about during your interview with him, what do you remember? And I kind of felt it was a candid camera moment in a way, Daniel, because, if someone would have said, you talked to Deepak 4 weeks ago, what do you remember? And I go, oh, the seven spiritual laws of success, and they said, when you talked to Wayne 6 months ago, what'd you remember? Oh, there's a spiritual solution for every problem. I could rattle off stuff. When she asked me that question with Maharishi, I was like dumbfounded. I said, I don't remember hardly anything. And she said, you must remember something. I said, no, it's so weird, man. I don't remember a thing from the interview. It's like my mind went blank. And she said, David, think harder. I said, okay. I said, he had a child. The only thing I can remember is he had a childlike joy. Like every question I asked, he would giggle and laugh. And I said, I had a blast with him, but I don't remember much. And she paused. And then she said, I'm going to tell you something that you may not understand, but you will down the road.
Wow.
And I said, what's that? And she said, you remember his joy because you have no joy. And I looked at her and I said, you don't know me. You've met me 20 minutes ago. You have no idea. Listen. And then, Daniel, I got very defensive, and I said, I'm a number one best-selling author. I live on the beach. I drive this. I do radio, blah, 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 right? Travel all over the world. Like, I am living in total joy. And she said, no, actually, you're not. And the reason why is that in 36 years of sitting with Maharishi, whenever a group of us are at his feet, sometimes he'll speak for 8-10 hours in a row. We all get up and we'll go and talk later, and someone will say, man, when he talked about X, I was blown away. And the rest of us say, we didn't even remember talking about that. But when we talked about it, and then she went on with the story saying, whatever you remember is what's missing. Mm. And so then it was several weeks after that I woke up after the 3-day binge and realized that I was so out of it. The beliefs that were given to me by well-meaning gurus, whatever you believe you can achieve. And now the words, of course, that the law of attraction put out there is whatever you send out into the universe must respond in kind. It's such crap.
Right.
If that happens, it's called a miracle. If it's happened, it's called a miracle. If you wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to meet my soulmate today, and the girl delivering Domino's pizza knocks you off of your feet,
hey,
and you have to be with her, that's called a freaking miracle.
Right. Wow.
So, and then after that happened, when I woke up that day, just totally blitzed, hungover.
You went on a binge, and I remember reading about this, and so here's this, you're pricing, you're a coach for 16 years, seemingly successful on the outside, very successful. I was living on the beach, driving a nice car, whatever, right? And I found out that you had an addiction, and I was like, that's what made me this really hit me hard wow, you felt like you were up here, maybe from what you were showing the public, but you were really, she was right, wasn't she?
Oh God, she was so right. And it takes that kind of a smack in the ass. It takes that for most of us. Most of us, we will not change until we are drilled to the ground, man. And so it took that, and then I woke up, and then from that experience, Daniel, everything changed. I started looking at, why did I avoid? Why have I procrastinated? Why have I hid behind affirmations? And, we didn't have vision boards back then, in 1996. But we did. I mean, I remember as a kid, my room being plastered with pictures of basketball players because I was such a freak, right?
Yep.
And so I had like in 1996, all around my beach house, I had phrases. I am a multimillionaire. I am 6% body fat. I am with, my soulmate of my life, this gorgeous girl. And then I'd have some Playboy model picture up there, all that. So we didn't have like it on a vision board. My whole freaking house was covered. The walls were covered, so, and I had to come to the reality that all of that was an illusion.
Wow.
It's an illusion. It keeps us trapped in denial. It keeps us trapped in doing what we're doing. And when we say this in the book, when you have and I'm not anti-positive thinking, when you have a positive affirmation that you use with emotions, and it's realistic or unrealistic, it doesn't matter. There's a cascade of chemicals, serotonin, dopamine, GABA, crashing through the brain, making you feel invincible right in that moment. And that's where denial sits. because who doesn't want to feel that, right? So we say the words, we get the sensation, we get the belief that we're on top of the world, and then we carry on doing nothing. But then when we restate that affirmation that afternoon, that evening, the next day, we feel like we've really got it together. And that's the trap of the world of positive thinking as we have been taught it. You know, hey, one of my favorite books in the world is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And in our other book, Positive Thinking Will Never Change Your Life, I tell the story that I read that book once a year, usually right around the first of the year. I pull it out and read the whole damn thing again, right? Because I love it so much.
It is. It's amazing.
Not one time, Daniel, in that book does he ever say you can think and grow rich.
Never thought about that. You're absolutely right.
He never says it. He gives stories of people that struggled to become millionaires. I mean, every story is people overcoming their own mountain, right? But he never sits there and says, now, if you think this way, you become rich. He was the master at marketing, plus he was the master at motivation. But the book title is what everyone wants. I want to think and grow rich, and that's what The Secret did.
Yes, that's correct. And then that goes back to The Secret, because The Secret really, what a marketing ploy that was.
Unbelievable. And that's what the law of attraction does. Now, the big difference between Napoleon Hill and The Secret and the law of attraction is that Napoleon Hill used a marketing ploy to get you to buy the book, but then he talked reality.
Yeah.
The law of attraction and The Secret never even went to reality. And they're still not. You know, in the new book, if you remember in chapter 1 in Focus, I'm finishing up the book, you know, where I'm actually finishing up during the Hurricane Irma, and I'm on my phone because we had no internet, and I get this thing posted on Facebook by this woman saying that if you want to learn how to earn $100,000 in 3 days, take my law of attraction money-making course. And I just about puked, Daniel. And wow. I wrote about it in the book Focus, you know. And then another week later, while I'm definitely finishing the book, I get an email from this law of attraction teacher saying, if you're tired of eating healthy and exercising and not losing weight, take our law of attraction course on weight loss. You'll never have to change your diet or exercise again.
That's bullshit.
You know, it is. It's absolute crap, you know. So what we've done in these books now is I've become this, you know, champion of the underdog, you know, champion of reality, saying, hey, you know, listen, I love Oprah, and I don't know what her opinion is of The Secret and the law of attraction today. Right. When it came out, she loved that crap, right? But I love Oprah. But if she's still promoting that and still believes in it, I'm really sorry to hear that, you know? Right. And when you talk about celebrities, you know, and the power that they have, Jenny McCarthy, the story I tell about Jenny in the book Focus.
Yeah.
She thought for sure The Secret and the law of attraction were valid.
I mean, I can tell you this, right? In the business world and the world and law of attraction and The Secret are huge. And it's huge. And funny that you say, because I look, vision board, I have affirmations. I can show you a list of affirmations I have read, right? In the first person, like all these things I own. And so I'm a subject of law of attraction. I can tell you, and I can also tell you, there are parts of that have worked for me. I've looked back and said, you know what? There's parts of it, but you're absolutely right. Never once, did I, were they the affirmation that, and it's funny because I'm like, you don't need to read, and I realized I don't need to read affirmations to be successful, but there's also parts where the athletic background I have where it's like, dude, action, go take action, get immersed, get, exposure immediately, like stop waiting for these things to happen. That's why I really resonate a lot with what you're saying here. And the title just right away pulled me in because there's a lot of people out there that are still focused on the law of attraction. My vibrations, my energy, and that stuff it is real. I mean, it's not, however, exactly what you're saying, a vision board is not going to make you a millionaire. It's not going to put a Rolls Royce keys in your hand just because you think it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, one of the most beautiful experiences that I had regarding the law of attraction and The Secret is with Jenny McCarthy, because, she was a huge fan of it. She believed that she talks about it on her Sirius XM show for years. And
Right.
I think it's probably 3 years ago when I came on with the book, Positive Thinking Will Never Change Your Life. She brought me on and said, hey, I'm going to give you 3 to 4 minutes, man. Like David, I think your thought process is very unique and very different. I happen to really like all this positive thinking stuff, but I'll tell you what, you have my audience for 3 minutes. If you in 3 minutes can convince me that I'm wrong and what I've been telling people, I will be the first to champion you. And Daniel, I get 3 minutes and there's a part of me going, oh my God, I may never be back on Jenny's show again. Yeah. And I love her. And this was the start of a great friendship with her. I nailed it in 3 minutes. And at the end of it, she turned to her audience, as we write about in the book, and said, oh my Lord, I was incorrect. David Essel is right. He's the new leader of the positive thinking movement. You need to get his book and see what he's talking about, and that was the first of many, many celebrities now that have looked at this work and said, holy cow.
Right.
Now I mentioned earlier, I love positive thinking. The first hour of every day, I am looking at my affirmations. I'm doing my journaling. I'm writing about what's going well and what's challenging me. I'm reading, the best books in the world. Some books like Napoleon Hill that I've read 1,000 times before. And the first hour, of every day is immersed in my mental attitude. And then after that, I don't even think about it, Daniel. I just go do the damn work.
Yeah. Right. You have to do the work. One of the things too that pulled me in here is the subconscious and the conscious mind. And I wanted to ask you too, you started doing, for some of our people that don't know what TM is, I've gotten familiar with it just recently, I say within the last 6 months. And could you, kind of explain, okay, so for people out there to say, I really do want what David's talking about, and, I really do want this better life. And I don't have an understanding of how to get there, of how you think TM got, well, maybe from my perspective, but okay, you kind of can really help people's subconscious, and then change their then when in general change their conscious thinking to make better choices. Do you think that's from TM? Or do you think it's kind of getting a smack in the face and saying, hey, look, you're fat, start working out? Obviously that some people might relate to that, but I want to ask you about how TM has changed that perspective just the last, I think you started in 1996, you started doing TM, correct?
No, 1988.
Oh, 88. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. 1988. And then in 1996, I interviewed the founder of TM, Maharishi.
That's when you interviewed.
But okay, so transcendental meditation, the most powerful aspect to me of being a TMer for as long as I have is that it quiets the mind.
Okay.
The mind is filled with all kinds of notions, some positive, but for the average human being, most of our mind is filled with limitation. I hate being late. I always eat this food I shouldn't. I drink too much. I'm not making the money I want to make. God, I wish my relationship was like my next door neighbors, even though you don't know what their relationship is really like. I wish I had a brand new car. Why do I have to work this job I hate so much? Why does my partner always give me such shit? Why don't my kids do what I say? What I just said is the average person's brain. Now, there are some people, Daniel, that their brain operates a little differently, and they have, usually via their action, created a mindset of peace and hope and goodwill and service and positivity and all that kind of stuff. But that's not the majority of people. And how do we know that? 70% of the United States population is overweight or obese. We know there's not good stuff going through their brains. Okay, so 70% of the population right away, right off the top. When we look at the percentage of population that exercises 4 to 5 times a week, it's between 10 and 12%. And that hasn't changed since 1970. 10 to 12% of people exercise 3 to 4 times a week. So we already know that there's a huge percentage of population struggling just with their weight, right? Which also means they're probably struggling with their health, which also means they're probably struggling with self-esteem, which also means they're probably struggling with self-confidence. So what TM does, and what I believe its greatest power is that in Buddhism, we call it the 10,000 monkeys in a cell. Transcendental meditation over time quiets the 10,000 monkeys in the cell. And one of the most powerful attributes of TM is that they tell you, don't struggle with your thoughts when you're doing meditation. So a thought comes up about I'm hungry. You want to observe the thought, go back to your mantra. the thought comes up, I can't be late to this meeting tonight. You want to observe the thought, but not fight it. In other words, the world of positive thinking has it all wrong. In the world of positive thinking, they say when you have a negative thought, quickly cover it up with an affirmation.
You're right.
Well, all that does is deepen that negative thought or fear or anxiety or insecurity. It doesn't do anything with it, you know. A friend of mine, do you know Rich Gaspari, the bodybuilder? Have you ever heard of him?
If I see a picture, I probably know who you're talking about.
Yeah, he was back with Arnold in the days, and he was super short, and super short guys have a hard time winning major bodybuilding titles. Sure. And he was blowing the world away. And he came out with a Gaspari nutrition, and he's got nutrition supplements all over the world and everything. But if you said to Rich, tell me all the positive mind tools that you use in order to become a highly ranked bodybuilder, I mean, the number of mind tools he uses compared to what he did physically to his body is minuscule, Daniel. Right. Right. It's like, those guys, are they going to spend some time thinking positively and visualizing themselves in the mirror? Of course. Right. but especially back then in the 80s, they were in the gym 8-10 hours a day, it was their profession. So TM, the main benefit